Hey guys, I'm Angela and welcome back to Hobby Night. It's here. The Death Guard Codex is finally in my grubby little hands, and we're going to now go ahead and review it. And by we, I mean the Chaos Cultist, my husband, and myself will be going through this book, and we're going to be talking about it, going through the things that we like, the things that we found interesting, just kind of flipping through the pages and talking about it because my baby's here, and there are some really good things in here that I'm very hyped about. I cannot wait. And here it is, Chaos Cultist, the Death Guard Codex.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
It really is. It's so lovely. How are you feeling about it?
I am... I'm feeling much better.
Excellent.
Yes,
Good.
Yes.
Good.
Oh, God, that Nurgle thing in the throat.
I
you always
know.
give me.
It gets stuck in there sometimes for you, doesn't
Yeah,
it? Yeah, it really does.
It really does. No, I have had some time to look at it, read
As
through
have
it,
I.
and it is an exciting tome. Yes, it
It is. I like it. I will say just about that cover, it's just the old fancy cover.
The old fancy cover.
Yeah, if you got the 8th edition collector's edition of the Codex, it is the same image.
Can you reach it?
Yeah, I think.
Like, can you do that without killing the tripod?
I think I can.
Huzzah!
It is the same image with a slight color change, but it is the same picture.
They just brightened it up.
They just brightened it up and added. Yeah, they're really pushing the purple with their box design in the book and everything, which I really like. I really like it, but I'm like a little lazy.
Using the L word.
The L word on the
harsh.
cover. The
Harsh.
interior was not lazy. They spent a lot of time on this, and I'm very happy.
Forget no insult, my sons, as I have never forgotten those of my father of the Emperor, nor those of Horus. Forgive no slight or grievance. Hold your bitterness deep within, and there let it fester. Let it roil and squirm and churn, until you are filled with bile so poisonous that all you touch falls to ruin. Thus shall you serve Nurgle best. Thus shall you spread his virulent gifts across the false Imperium and watch its final rotting.
How's your throat feel?
Mortarion, Demon, Primarch of Nurgle.
Excellent.
Pretty good, actually. That
Good.
one wasn't so bad.
Good. That was very nicely done. I love the ramp up to it, and it felt very thematic.
Yes.
We have a lovely introduction, as all of the books have.
We have our table of contents.
Of course.
We have
nice-
our splash intro screen.
Same image. This is why I was saying it was a little lazy.
Hey, calm down. They can reuse art.
They can. See, I want more of this style art. Bring more of this back, please.
That is a cover, I believe, from like the 90s.
I think it is. Is this not? Was this not used on one of the Slaves to Darkness books? Not Slaves. Is that the right word?
It's one of the Chaos lore books.
Yes.
I could not tell you if it's this exact piece of art or if this is
Or they might just use this particular Nurgle demon. I feel like I've seen him on a book cover before.
This I think I've also seen in a charcoal black and white.
Yes,
and
or something very similar.
Something like that. This art has been done a few times.
Oh, it's so good. They're so
we have
goopy.
The description of Nurgle
Although it does look
himself.
kind of like he's got ketchup, just like his
Oh yeah.
it's very ketchupy.
Oh yeah, that's for his fries.
Oh, you know what? Makes sense.
Now, speaking of new art, I actually wish this was the cover.
I do too.
Trying to get rid of that glare for you
really
guys.
wish this was the cover as well, because this is glorious, and I also like that it's focusing on. I mean, I know Morty is very important, and he definitely is.
We got this foreground.
But I like
guy.
the foreground guys. I like the focus on the Plague Marines, and I really like this subdued, acid-looking artwork coloring.
Yes.
That's the word I was looking for. Coloring.
Just trying to move the light a little further away here, so
There we go. I think that looks a
it's
little
a
better.
little brighter, but it's further away, so I don't think it's there.
There we go.
Not as much shine.
And then it goes into his lore, of course, Typhus's lore,
So
which I love this art of Typhus. This is great.
Mm-hmm. That is
Very
gorgeous.
reminiscent of those charcoal drawings. I wonder if
Look
that.
how tiny this guy is. I think that's there's a shoulder in his hand.
Yeah, I mean that's probably a guardsman or something. Right?
It is, yes.
Yeah, just a normal talks about our legion structure.
Yeah, which I believe, according to the lore, you guys are sort of still the most put together.
Yes, from like the chart and everything, it kind of looks that way.
Well,
from,
what
like,
it is, I mean, in
well.
the lore, all of the Chaos Legions being, a little not.
Oh, I
fond
see
of
what you're
authority.
saying. I see what you're saying. They don't actually follow their structure.
Correct.
Yes. No, that is, and you know what? That is actually
Your
kind
Primarch's
of cool.
still alive. That helps.
Our Primarch is still alive, which helps. But it's also kind of something that they've pushed in the rules, which, like, when we get to the rules section, I do like that they've sort of thematically pulled the way that the army is meant to run into how the actual rules are
detachment
working. Like, the
rules.
detachment rules are working. It's really nice.
I would agree. But look at you being so close to the Ultramarines.
I know. Well, we fight them a lot, so it's fine.
So this is something that is a huge emphasis in the rules section of the book, and you can sort of see it here in the fluff. They are very much focusing on the, like, elite characters.
Which I actually really like, because I've not read through the full fluff section of the book yet. I've focused much more on, like, the rules and stuff like that, because I'm just very interested in list building. But I was looking through this morning, and I really am interested in reading these pages more, because it actually goes into, like, what were they previously, what are they kind of representing, and to go back to your, like, they're kind of following the Ultramarine, like, or the Codex, like, Startes, like, roles a little bit more. Like, this breaks them down.
You have an apothecary.
And I actually, as a player, personally really like that. Like, I like seeing the more mirrored, this is still chaos, we're still insane and, like, out there and, like, unpredictable.
She would play Horus Heresy if they supported it better.
I really, really would. Like, if I didn't have to just buy a bunch of Forge World models that I just don't want to have to deal with, I would play Horus Heresy so much.
Because, I mean, the other problem I constantly have, and I'm hoping reading this will help me, is like, okay, I know the Plague Surgeon, and I know the Tallyman.
Yes.
Tally me banana.
Tally me banana.
But the Blightbringer, the Blight Spawn, and the Putrefier, if you put me on the spot and asked me to, like, draw lines connecting the name to the picture,
right, and
I think I'd probably get two of them wrong.
And they don't even necessarily look like they're, like, I don't even think they have a full one-to-one from what I was reading. It is also just kind of like, these are much in the same way that, like, Khorne Berserkers are, like, the guys that really went berserk. Like, some of them are just, like, the dudes who really like to watch the Nurgle guys, or the victims of Nurgle's plagues get tortured. It's that kind of stuff.
Yes.
This is cool art.
Yes.
I think I accidentally skipped this page.
So this is just a bit of more modern fluff for, okay, what has the Legion been up to in the last 100
probably.
years?
I wonder if this probably helps, like,
establish
that a little bit more, and also it probably ties into, I'm sure there have been White Dwarf articles talking about, like, their
I think there have
Plague
been
War stuff with Ultramarines, like, in the past. So
a little bit. This is separate, I think, from the Plague War.
Oh, okay,
I think this is a separate detachment. I just have looked at this, like, once.
Okay.
This is, like, a separate group that Mortarion dispatched to basically secure supplies for the rest of the ongoing conflicts.
Okay, that's really cool.
So I think that's why we're seeing Industrial here, is they are here to, like, get a hold of, like,
they've gone to, like, a hive world, or not a hive world, but like a manufactorum world, or like a...
I think there's all of those here.
Nice, that's really cool.
So we have what they're up to, and I think that's what this continues with. This is just a fluff.
Oh yeah, I did
section.
read the first paragraph of this, and I liked what he was saying. The favorite sentence was, the flapping tubes that served him as nostrils. Flapping tubes.
I mean, really, the sentence after that is putrefying corpses, certainly, mounds of human waste, undoubtedly, but the disease within them that gave each their distinctive aroma.
Yeah, no,
like, that's also a good. Like, I'm
is.
sorry, I stumbled on that sentence because I was just going, is this sentence saying what I think it is?
Yeah, no, he's walking through something, he's smelling, and he's like, oh, I can smell the bouquet of death. But specifically, I believe that was AIDS, and that one was lupus, and that one was
space lupus.
Space lupus and space AIDS.
Sploopus.
Yes, sploopus.
And spades.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. Oh.
That's great.
Yes, the next couple of pages have some of my favorite art that may not be new, but I haven't seen this piece before.
Yeah, neither have I, and I really, really like it.
And so now we're just getting into the, implementations of infection. It's both their weapons, but I think it's also their demon engines a little bit.
Yeah.
Obviously it says demon engines right there.
Yep. Exactly.
But then the Venom Marines, which is a great name. I'm sorry, Venom Mariners. They're not even Venom Marines. They're Venom Mariners.
Oh, well, yeah, because they're underwater. Look, they're underwater.
Oh, boy.
They are literally in... Oh, that is so cool. I had not realized that was what they were, because I also had read it as Venom Marines. That is so cool. Plague fleets.
Well, that's their spaceships.
I know, but like, it also...
I think they're trying to create an underwater image here, yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Because they're trying to go with, like, the undead pirates rising from the deep with their organs spilling. You know, that look.
Yes. I really, like, GW, I'm liking this undead pirate-y theme that you've got going between, like, the court, or the red court, no, Crimson Court, like, lady, and then, like, that, and I like the pirates, let's do that.
And the Weeping Legion.
Nice.
I haven't read this section yet, but the art is amazing.
Yeah, no, the art in these books, like, because we talked about it in the Necron book, we talked about it in a couple of the Space Marine codexes that we've reviewed. Like, it's really getting, like, back to the grimdark while maintaining the almost more, like, this is almost pastel colors to me in here. If you, like, see it in real life, like, this is a very pastel orange. This is a very pastel, dusty
I love this
yellow.
brass gray blue
Yes.
guy.
Yes.
Like, this guy almost looks Star Wars-y to me.
I agree.
Yeah.
I
this
agree.
guy almost looks like a droid stormtrooper that got taken over by Nurgle.
Which I'm totally down with. It looks
I'm
really cool.
waiting for that crossover. That will probably happen never. All right. And now we are on to the actual paint schemes. They are encouraging you to paint in colors other than green.
I actually really like that. It was one of the things I was going to talk about with that page, but we'll bring it in here because, like, yes, they're giving you other options. Now, I love my green boys. But I do like seeing opportunities for other things. And I think even with their the terrain piece, because they painted it in almost like Horus Heresy Death Guard colors.
That bone color.
Yeah, it's that bone white color.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I like that. I'm okay with expanding out away from the green because I just like seeing those variations. And Death Guard, I felt like never really got that focus, whereas other things really did.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And then it's starting to show, like these guys. These guys are great. I love the look of them. Because
I
you
do
see
too.
it, you see people do really cool stuff with poxwalkers all the time. There's a lot of variation people will do with their poxwalkers. But I feel like with the Marines and Terminators and stuff, you don't see. I
kind of want to paint a Space Marine army.
I was gonna say, I actually am really inspired by this.
That's a great Salamander or Dark Angel. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and you can do anything Ultramarine. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they were doing
see,
the
like
classic.
this. I like the classic look.
I like the mix.
I do too. I actually really like this dark green. Like, that is definitely, to me, that looks like Dark Angel's contrast.
It does actually, is the base.
Or Camo Creed. That could also be Camo Creed.
Probably. But it's probably not, but it does remind you of
It
that,
really reminds me of it. But I like that combo with that bone white.
This is somewhat where I grew up, but this very much reminds me of like mid-20th century train station color scheme. Like, it's something about the brass meets that like ivory white meets like a like rich deep green. I don't know. I think there was like a train station.
There's
when I was
also
younger.
Yeah, I completely agree. I get that train vibe. I also like the certain level of elegance that this adds in, because to your point with those colors and how you were kind of were describing with the train, like I always feel like that's like a regalness or like a fanciness, and like that coloring is just so good. And then
we have all of the characters.
I think I have everybody now, because we just got him. I have one of him. He's just not painted.
Okay.
I have him. He just got painted.
Yeah.
Just bought him.
Yeah, he's the only one I wasn't sure about.
I have him. I checked. He's in the case when I reorganized yesterday. I have him, and I have a Lord of Contagion. He's just not painted.
Okay, good.
But I have Typhus instead, because that's probably what I'll run. Because Typhus
you have like 6 of these, because everyone has 6 of these, because he was in the starter sets
multiple times, and I bought multiple starter sets.
Well, and some people like gave you their halves because
that's true, because they were like, I'm never gonna run these, and I'm like, why? They're so good.
I think we have like 4 bloat drones with flamers for that reason.
We do.
Like, they're not all built, but it was because like we were just buying things for the Marines.
Yep, basically.
Nice little battle scene with the Imperial God.
I think the green backlighting in that is a little too strong. I just want to point that out. Like, I love this image, but I actually think this is way too...
It's Necron green.
It's Necron green, and it takes away from them. Like,
No, it doesn't take away from them. It's just telling them what's about to happen when they're done.
And now it's on to the rules, because, let's face it, this is really what we care about, because I want to build lists, and I've been waiting for this book to be able to know how I should be painting my other miniatures, and I have some ideas now.
I mean, if you really want, you can just use your 8th edition Codex to fight my Necrons.
You know what? No. I feel like I'm telling you no a lot in this.
Oh.
But you know what? We're not doing that. We're going to use this new one because, holy cow, let's talk about this book.
All right.
We've got our Combat Patrol.
Which is just an ad for the Start Collecting box.
Yes, it is.
Which you did buy.
I did.
So it worked.
It didn't, because I got the Start Collecting box because I want to repaint Typhus. I needed this guy, and I was like, well, cool, he's in there. I was like, sure, I'll take some more Plague Marines, whatever. I don't have 30 of them already.
You did not need 30 more Poxwalkers and 7 more Plague Marines.
I didn't need more. I did need 30 more Poxwalkers, though, because you see, I have my 3 20-man squads, and they all have color-coded bases, but I've started adding Swamp into their base designs, so I have to redo some with Swamp bases. And that is my excuse for why I bought it. Let's move on to the chapter approved rules, shall we?
All right, so the first thing is the new secondary objectives for the Death Guard. I really like all 3 of them, honestly.
I actually do too.
They're
and
situational, a couple of them.
They are. This one in particular, I feel like is kind of situational, but there are a number of things, because this is the morale one.
She has been obsessed with this. Explain what this one does before we continue.
Okay, so you score 3 victory points at the end of the battle round if any enemies units have failed morale tests in the battle round that had 1 or more model destroyed by attacks made with a plague weapon. So it is kind of specific. You are specifically having to use a plague weapon. The thing that I find interesting...
Most of your killing, though.
It is most of my killing. There are ways to make non-plague weapons plague weapons. The other thing that I find really interesting about this, and it's the reason that I think I'm stuck on it, is because morale for a really long time in 9th edition has not been a thing. Or in the game, in 40k, has not really been a thing. 8th edition, it definitely wasn't. It seems to me like GW is trying to make it mean something more. And my army definitely feels like it's geared towards abusing that a little, not abusing it, but like playing off of that and making my opponent like have morale issues. And I think that's kind of neat to have a mechanic that has always been there, but has been actually being tried to work with. And some of the stuff that's in this book, including the No Mercy, No Respite, I think can maybe synergize, and I don't know, I want to experiment with it.
They definitely do have a lot of things later on in the book we'll talk about.
Yeah,
that
we'll
point
touch on
towards
them.
it. It's just most players are Space Marines.
I know, and that's where I'm like,
it's hard to make a Space Marine break leadership, and that's why I'm like, that's my least favorite of the 3.
I agree. It is, and it is my least favorite of the 3 too. It's just the one that I want to somehow do the most, because I think it's the most interesting because it's playing with something that hasn't been done before.
It's a good Crusade
Yes,
one.
that too. It's also a very good Crusade one.
Battlefield Supremacy is great. It is, just to summarize all these key points, you can read them if you want. I think it's in focus enough.
Yeah, I think so.
It is basically survive.
Yes.
It's survive in position. You are Nurgle. If you are alive at the end of the game and fit basic criteria that makes sense for a battlefield,
right,
you will score victory points. Basically, have you spread your plague auras around the table enough?
Are you around the table enough? Which I think is kind of interesting considering how slow Nurgle was previously.
That's why it's an objective.
But the boards are also smaller now, so it works to our advantage. Like this one I think is also really good, and Shadow Operations is cool too.
Yeah, I like that one too. It's basically
like I like being able to spread the sickness and actually do the like it's an action. Wah. But yeah, yes. Wah.
No, so yeah, because that one's nice because it's spend an action to basically, skip your round with that unit. But you infect, quote unquote, an objective marker and
spread your contagion, which has other, I think, because doesn't it do the contagion?
No, it doesn't spread the contagion.
Oh no, it just has been contaminated.
Yeah, it gets contaminated, which means it is worth victory points at the end.
That's right.
The nice thing about it is once you've done it, I think that's it. Like, they can't undo the contamination. You don't have to be controlling it. Oh, it's just, did you do it to 3 units? That's 9 points.
Right, which makes sense too, because it's an action. So, of course, I don't think they would take your action away from you.
So they're sacrificing, yeah.
Right, exactly.
And then we are on to the detachments, which I will leave more for you to speak about, like, the overall idea of them.
Yes, so, like, basically for the detachments right now, this is basically how you're building your lists and basically how you're kind of wanted to build things around. And I found some very interesting. In particular, I really like, I think it was Mortarion's Anvil is really interesting to me. and the Ferryman, because we got these previewed in, or not previewed. These were originally released in the Psychic Awakening book. War of the Spider, was it? Was that what that was
Yes,
ours, right?
yes.
But there's been some updates and changes to them, and I still think all of them are really interesting. I think some of them are, like this first one, the Harbingers, I think we were discussing earlier, and this one felt a little bit more Crusade specific.
Felt like a Crusade, like I could see it with a big ball of Poxwalkers, a Warlord behind him just marching up the center of the board.
Exactly.
It's a very simple one, but it's the first one, so it strikes me as like, do you have the patrol detachment?
Right, exactly.
Run this.
And well, that makes sense because Harbingers is specifically Typhus's keyword, so he works best with this one.
Right.
And so that makes sense to me, and I do actually like it. I think it's great for, like, are you new to Death Guard? Maybe start with this one, pick up a control or a combat control box, and have fun, because I think it would be a lot of fun.
So, but the thing to keep in mind, sort of backing up for a second,
of course,
is when it comes to your detachments, there's a few new rules when building a Death Guard list.
Oh, yes. Gosh, I'm so sorry. Yes.
These have been talked about a lot, so we're not going to stay on them too long. But sort of the first one, just to know, is that you can no longer have more Poxwalker units or Cultist units than you have basically units of Plague Marines or Terminators in the army.
Units.
There's a couple, the way they present it is there's a limit. I would argue is the only way you can take Poxwalkers now is as an add-on to a Plague Marine or a Terminator unit, but the rules are what they are.
Right.
I don't hate this.
I don't either. Like, it's very thematic, and one of the things that 9th edition to me has really proven is they're getting thematic with all their rules, and it just feels that way.
I think the theme works, but because they've been not nerfed, their price point got brought down to 5.
Yeah.
And with the huge buffs coming to the Plague Marines and the Terminators we'll talk about shortly.
Yes.
I think it's fine.
I think it is too. I'm like, I don't mind that they're pushing us away from necessarily spamming a bunch of Poxwalkers. It's okay. I'm all right with it.
But speaking of spam, the second thing that they have limited you on is Demon Princes.
Yes, which is a little bit of a bummer, I will admit.
Infernal Jealousy.
Yes, Infernal Jealousy. I have mixed feelings on this one. I
don't.
I'm okay with it. I think ultimately I'm okay with it because
it did not actually hurt your list building.
It didn't. That was the thing that when I first saw this rule, because I do think this is one of the ones that they did preview, didn't they? Or was this one of the leaked ones?
I don't know I don't remember.
Okay, well, whatever. When I saw this entry originally, before I actually had my hands on the book, I was like, oh, I don't know, that kind of sucks. I'm not gonna be able to run as many Demon Princes or anything. But the few games that we have played in 9th from what we have already done, it didn't affect my list building. Like, I wasn't bringing as many Demon Princes because I was kind of actually focusing on these guys a little bit more, which is the character or the
I agree with the elite characters. I also say it didn't really affect you because when you reached a point cost where you were running 2 Demon Princes,
that's true.
You were running 2 detachments.
Yes.
And once you were running 2 detachments, you can throw 2 Demon Princes in
That is
there.
also true.
The biggest thing that you have been nerfed on is previously you were running 2 Demon Princes with Typhus.
Yeah, and that is not possible
can't
anymore.
Really do anymore without a lot of command point expenditure.
Right.
But to your point you just made,
I don't really need 2 Demon Princes anymore.
You have enough other things that can rip something's head off.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this book is really not forcing, but focusing on other things that is not just the Demon Princes, because that was a really dominant thing in strategy in 8th edition for Death Guard players, and I think that's fine.
And then the final 2 points are just for list building, one of which is the old inexonerable advance rule. It's the same as in 8th.
Yep.
And then we have what we mentioned previously, the Foetid Virilon or Virion, which basically says those characters we talked about previously, the Plague Surgeon and all those guys.
The Tallyman, all of those guys.
Yeah, you can take 3 of them per elite slot. This is something we saw a little bit of with the Necrons and the way they handled Cryptex.
Yep, and I think it's great that they're handling it very similarly. I actually really like the way that works. I think that's a cool rule. So we're back to the Plague Companies.
And just to explain what Plague Companies are, if you are new and not familiar, Plague Companies are, in essence, your... For the Plague Marines, they actually kind of act like chapters.
Yes.
They're more like your chapter disciplines of they open up a relic available to you, they open up a Warlord trait to you, and they open up a Stratagem to
Yeah, that's
you.
specific to that group, which
Exactly.
is really cool. Which is really cool.
But sorry, continue.
Sorry, yes, sorry I didn't explain that. I was just like, clearly they know we're looking at blah blah
There
blah.
might be
But there might
someone
be some
new.
new people, and exactly. So Harbingers, I think is interesting. Definitely Crusade. Definitely geared towards you want to play with the combat patrol. I think this is a really good starting point. Inexorable is cool. This is definitely for Terminators.
Is it?
I believe so, yeah, because I think they get this keyword. Well, they would get this keyword anyways, but it's a charge phase, so you can like.
Oh
because
no, this is the defense guy.
Yeah, this is
right.
which I think could be work on Terminators if you're sending them forward and you basically are going against something
It's
else
a
that's
castle.
also a charge. Yeah.
It's a castle ball.
Yeah, I really like it. I feel like this makes your ball that's rushing forward, because like Death Guard, I feel like are just walking forward now. That's our thing.
Well,
We're
and you
all-
want to charge, so that sort of stops them from charging you potentially,
Right.
and allows you to hit with everything that's slow at once.
Right.
I get it. Cool.
Yeah, which is I think really cool. Mortarion's Anvil also I think is the other one that's really good for
It's so aggressive.
Like this is just so aggressive, but I really like it.
The fact that you are able to, is this the heroically intervene? Yeah.
Yeah.
So this one allows you to basically heroically intervene with Terminators,
Which is great.
which is amazing. The bloat itself is amazing because this Warlord trait basically says
So the first part is at the end, the enemy unit can't fire Overwatch or set to defend. That's whatever.
Hold on. This is a Warlord trait that affects the contagion, which
Yes.
is something we have not talked about yet in this review.
True. We have not talked
So
about
this
contagions
is why
at
we
all.
have to talk through
Slow
these
down.
things.
Yes. Sorry, I'm
Um,
very excited, so I am very rambly and kind of all over the place. I apologize.
Yes, I understand. Most people know what this all was being referenced, but for those who don't, we will get to it in a few minutes. But the Death Guard have an aura ability about them now. For lack of a better term, it's their funk. And the Warlords can upgrade their funk.
Yep.
In this case, what kind of funk can he bring?
So he can bring a very good funk. Each time a model in an enemy unit makes an attack,
And this is within an aura range of him.
which does increase
Over
each
time.
round, and can get up to I think 9 inches, maximum of 12 with aura. But like you can expand the aura of the contagion range using certain relics and other things. So it can be really big. But the hit roll and the rune roll cannot be re-rolled. Like
So
that
to
is so powerful.
Yeah, to summarize that, basically what it is enemy units within that aura range can no longer make rerolls of hits or wounds.
Which is just super.
Yeah, it's not quite a nullification of all auras, but it's a nullification of probably 75% of them.
Yeah.
So
it's-
that is spectacular.
Yeah, so that one's really good. The Wretched, I think, was pretty cool. This one, I think, is for Psychers.
I'm not as big on it as you seem
This
to
one,
be.
this one is I think, a Crusade.
Your Crusade list would have to be built around a single character.
I guess that's true. This one, because this is the. Oh, right. I'm sorry.
This
This is the one.
Okay,
This
so
is-
just to speak to the Wretched, because we're speaking in vagaries
Yes, I
and
apologize.
not describing what it is. So the Wretched is a plague company that has a warlord trait that basically allows you to buff your psychers. That's
Your
correct.
Plague Caster, yeah.
Yes, your malignant plague caster, which allows him to throw a lot more mortal wounds when he casts, which is great. And the warlord trait that like affects their the aura we talked about previously, it helps a little bit, and you can spend a CP
It does get you
before the
some-
battle to learn an extra power. You can't cast an extra power bone, but you can learn an extra power.
Yeah, I think that was the thing that I keep forgetting and why I keep getting really excited about this. I keep thinking that it's you get to cast another power in the same way that like Typhus is allowed to
No.
cast two, and I keep
You get to reroll.
You get to reroll, but you don't get to cast the second one. You get to learn, which gives you more options, which I do like, but I keep forgetting that that is not actually how it works, and that's why I keep wanting this to be so much better than it is.
I see. And then we have the Poxmongers, for those of you who love the Demon Engines, because, oh my god, Demon Engines are a mixed bag in this codex, because on the one hand, they did get buffed, but at the sacrifice of all the things that they used to do to get buffer.
Correct, and the Blight Haulers in particular are...
Oh, we're going to talk about that.
We'll talk about them, because they're interesting.
I have an opinion on them.
Yes. But yeah, so this is if you're really wanting to focus on your demon engines, which I think is fun. Like, I still think you could. I think this could be a lot.
This would be great if you're running a high point list and you have something where you've thrown like 3 to 6 demon engines in one detachment,
Yeah.
you need to buff them.
Yeah, you really just want to buff that.
And then there is the one that is...
Yeah, so the Ferryman. This is the one that I think I am the most interested in.
Let's talk about first that stratagem.
Yes, this stratagem. So use a stratagem in your command phase. Select one of your Ferryman Foted Viren models.
Basically characters.
So a character. And that model's and then select one of that model's aura's abilities.
The contagion does not count as an aura. Let's make that clear.
Yes, that is very true. So it won't affect that, but this could say affect the Tallyman's
plus one to hit,
for example.
The Plague Surgeon's feel no pain roll.
Correct. And until the end of your next, or until the start of your next command phase, you add 6 inches to the range of that model's selected aura ability.
And a lot of those aura abilities are normally 3 inches.
Which means that you have a 9-inch aura ability potential, and that is huge for 1 CP. I think that's amazing.
You slap that on the guy with the helm that adds 3 inches to his aura ranges, you have a 12-inch aura
Exactly.
range. It's quite good.
It is quite good, which is why I think they clarify that maximum to 12 inches, because you can combine it with that helm.
I'm thinking you put that on the Tallyman.
I think that is probably what I will do. The droning, which is also a contagion, also is pretty good, because it halves, am I reading that correctly? Yep. Yeah, it halves the enemy's unit's movement characteristic until I think the start. Yeah, until the end of their phase.
Which for most armies means you are removing 2 to 3 inches of movement.
Yeah,
if they are near that warlord.
Right, which is just so good. And again, because it's a contagion,
going on like a Terminator.
Right, and because this is a contagion, it expands.
Yes,
like it's over time. So it just keeps getting better. And then the relic is pretty good too, if I remember correctly.
Yes, it is right,
because it's the scythe. Right, so this, again, on a Terminator or something like that, would be sick.
Yeah, so this is a case of, like, if you're not running Typhus, but you want to bring, like, a Terminator Death Guard Chaos Lord, give him a sick scythe, and just have him be a beat stick.
Yes.
That's what he's for. And then finally, we have the Chosen Sons, who I actually
don't remember what this one was very much, because I think it was okay, but I didn't think anything really stood out to me.
It is a benefit to your plague weapons.
That's right.
Like, you ignore cover, and your plague weapons are a little bit better.
Which could be.
The idea behind them is that they have, like, the plague spewers, and they're really good at, like, melting terrain.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah, so, I honestly, with the exception of, I guess the Wretch, because I keep remembering the rule incorrectly, and the first one, which I just think is a little, like, too specific, because it only really helps Poxwalkers.
And Typhus.
And Typhus. I just, like, everything else I feel like is pretty, like, will be fun to play with.
Love that. Fair.
I'm using that one. I think that's just what I'm using.
All right. For stratagems, we are not going to talk through every darn stratagem that is here. Most of the ones that were in the old game are still here in one form or another, but some that are missing. There is no longer Veterans of the Long War.
Right.
So there's no +1 to wound, which is
fine. I forgot to use it every time.
Constantly.
Like, it's one of those ones where I'm like, I'm sad to see it go, because I know there are a lot of people who used it all of the time. But as a player who constantly forgot to use it, I'm not sad to see it go.
So one thing, so that's a negative, but a positive I want to talk about is Vermid Whispers.
Yes.
I did not hear anyone talk about this stratagem before the book came out, but there's been a lot of talk of the Tallyman. The Tallyman gives a unit +1 to hit. Give that to a Terminator unit. Ooh.
Oh, they're so nasty.
They're so nasty. But, part of the problem is you want deep strike Terminators, right? There's a 1 CP stratagem to give Terminators +1 to hit.
Yep. So you deep strike them. And if they
when it's selected to shoot or in the fight phase, on the end of that phase, so at least it doesn't last for the entire round. Like, you can't give them a +1 to hit in shooting and then in melee.
No, but you want to get them in. They're successful at getting in, and then you want to you want to maximize the impact of them having gotten in as early as they did. This helps with that.
Right.
Like, I like it. I think it's a good one.
Also, it's different phases. You could use
it in other phases.
You could use it in both.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can re-roll in both phases.
Correct.
Weird.
Yeah, so, I think it's a pretty good one.
Another...
This one bothers me, I'm just gonna like,
Okay,
and because
you can
it's
talk about
silly.
that one.
I just want to briefly call this out. There is a single unit in this book that has the keyword Death Guard Machine Spirit, and it is the Predator. No, Land Raider. It's the Land Raider. This only affects the Land Raider, and I don't know why it's here. I just want to say that because it upsets me.
Because it's for Forge World stuff too.
Oh, duh. Of course. I bet. Yeah, you're right.
He'll probably have. There's probably a Forge World like.
I bet there
Land
is.
Raider
I bet
that
there
it works
is.
on or something.
I hadn't even like considered that. I was reading this last night and I went, wait a minute, and was very confused.
In case anyone does want to call me out on it, Eternal Hatred is kind of like Veterans of the Long War, but it's 2 CP and it only works on the infantry.
Yeah, I just don't think it's as good. And
actually, Veterans only work on infantry, I think.
Actually, that's true, but it's 2 CP. Veterans is 1, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think
so. Also.
Double sure. Another one, like there's a lot of good ones here. We're not going into deep detail about them.
No, and they showed a couple of the good ones, I think, already, like when they were doing their previews and stuff.
Yes.
Like, I like the Putrid Detonation, like that's still the same, that's still in there. Isn't there one that also allows you to just blow up your characters?
There is one. I was trying to find, there's some funny ones in here. Oh, I want to talk about the Dead Walk again.
Yes, this is a good one too.
So for those of you who always wanted to run some zombies, but you felt like there wasn't enough necromancy in the Death Guard.
Mm-hmm.
So it's 1 CP. You can only use it once per battle, per unit. So if you have multiple units of Poxwalkers, you can use it multiple times. But you roll 7 dice.
Yep.
And for every 3+, you get a Poxwalker back.
Yep. I like it.
So on average, you're going to get 4 Poxwalkers back. It's only worth 20 points.
Mm-hmm.
But how many times would you just love to have 4 extra wounds sitting on that objective in the backfield?
I was about to say, I was like, this is great though for when you've like so.
You could also put those new bodies out of line of sight.
Exactly. Exactly. This actually has some cool, I think, like things that you could do in game with it, especially with objective holding or contesting, or like because if your opponent has a bunch of things on there and you get like some Poxwalkers up to the objective, but they get killed, and then you can bring some back and basically contest that for your opponent's next round. I think that's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are some really good stratagems in here. I also like that this is pulling a little bit of what this is the start of the separation, I think, of what they did with Necron and Poxwalkers, of like Necrons have the resurrection and everything, and I was really worried that how they were going to do some of that staying power with the Death Guard, because I didn't want to be too samey to the Necrons, and thankfully they have really managed to not do that. And this is like the only thing that kind of feels a little Necron-y in regards to like characteristics, but it's a stratagem, so you're not constantly spamming it. It doesn't feel like it's taking away from what Necron players have.
And to go back to a buff, or a nerf, Cloud of Flies is now 2 CP, only works on infantry, unless it's Terminators, and then it's 4 CP.
Yeah. Ow, indeed. But for me, at least, again, one that I never use because I always just forgot to do it because I never really quite grokked how valuable it was. This does make me sad that it's changed.
I don't know. I'm sorry. But final one, just before we move on to the next set of rules. This is a sleeper hit.
Okay, I don't think I've read this one yet.
Dark Cravings. This only works on bloat drones, and I want you to think about bloat drones with flesh mowers.
Okay, I'm thinking about my mower boy.
All right, until the end of... Okay, use this in the opponent's charge phase. Select a bloat drone.
Okay.
End of the phase, if they are within 6 inches horizontally or 5 inches vertically of enemy units, they perform a heroic intervention and can move up to 6 inches.
Oh my goodness.
So watch out for somebody parking one of these things in the middle of the... This is charge defense.
Yeah.
Because if you put this in the middle of the board, it gets to their charge phase.
I hadn't even thought of that.
You can just move this in if they got too close, if they don't want to get too close to it.
Yeah, and the mowers are scary.
And honestly, and this is mean because I'm thinking for like non-hyper-competitive players, this is a trap.
Yes.
That they are not going to realize is coming.
Nope. No, that could be mean.
That is.
But also fun.
So, take that.
With a grain of salt.
No, you don't have to take that with any kind of grain of salt. That's a worry. No. Just take this to your friendly local game store and have fun, kids.
Oh, yeah, do that. Actually, do that. I encourage you to do that. Next up, we have the Deadly Pathogens, which are things that you can apply to upgrades for your Death Guard character models or your Bubonic Astartes champion models, which means that you can put some of these on your Plague Champions and your Death Guard, like just, it's your Sergeant. Basically, you can put it on your Sergeant in your Death Company, or with your Plague Marines, which I really like because this gives you a +1 strength, which is really cool. And some of these do some interesting things. I think it was... Which one was the one that I liked the most yesterday? We were talking about it, and I can't remember now.
So there's one that adds AP to the weapon. There is one that makes 6s on rolls to hit, cause 1 additional hit.
Yes.
There are 6s on wounds, cause a mortal wound, which is nice. Befouling runoff is you don't get cover against the weapon. Unstable sickness. There is basically every time you kill someone with the weapon, if you roll a die and they explode and cause damage to someone else in their unit, which is fun.
Yeah, I do like that one a lot.
Corrosive filth.
It's very specific to vehicles.
But it's really good.
It is really good. I also think this is...
+1 damage to vehicles.
Yeah, +1 damage to vehicles, which is cool. +1 to strength. I also think... Because this one is a +10 points, and I think Befouling Runoff are both +10
Only
points.
10 points, yeah.
I actually think even if you didn't necessarily want this for the vehicle, like its actual ability, but you wanted to spend 10 points just to like buff a champion in your Plague Marine squad,
Yep.
I think it's one that you could do. Like you could do either of those. Maybe ignore if it's not super valuable to you, like, you know, just ignore it, but you get that +1 strength. Because that is good.
It is an interesting idea because I've read this a couple of times and I'm pretty sure it's a plague weapon and it can't be a grenade or a relic.
Right.
So there's no other limitation. So for example, Viscous Death.
Right.
Which is a reroll the number of attacks with this weapon. Now, nothing says I can't apply this to a weapon that doesn't have a random number. Like I can put it on a plague sword.
Right, exactly. Which
it would not. This rule would do nothing. But at least it's +1 strength now.
Yeah.
+10 points to potentially make a sword strength 6?
It might have some value. I don't know. I want to play with it.
If you got 10 random points sitting on your list, you know, at the end of
Which
your list
occasionally
building,
I do.
And you want to like buff that sergeant and suddenly he's just a bit more threatening. I think there are uses for this.
Yeah, totally. I think a lot of these have some uses.
And a lot of the secondary, like, you know, this unstable, or not that one, the corrosive filth, put this on like mortar or something. This is a great anti-tank weapon.
Yes.
Suddenly, the Plague Burst mortar with this.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, can't get it because it's not a Star.
Oh, it's not. Yeah, no, never mind. It can't.
That is the problem. It's mostly also melee weapons. It's like you can put it on some of the ranged guns, but I really think it's going on the melee weapons.
I agree, which I think is why they want you to put it on like your sergeants and stuff. Which is why I think it might be valuable to just ignore some of the other rules and just take the +1 strength because you always get that.
And that leads us to the Warlord traits.
Yes.
I, for one, find these to be fine.
I like them. We still have a way to get our normal 5-up for our Warlord. Like our normal Disgustingly, or the old Disgustingly Resilient.
And it should be called out, by the way, that Mortarion has 4 of these.
Yes.
I think
because he gets 3. So it shows you down here at the bottom of the page. So Typhus gets a specific one, which is on a different page. And then Revolting Resilient. So Mortarion gets that one. He gets Living Plague, which is this
Number
one here,
2.
which is an aura, which expands his aura out 3 inches.
So yeah, so basically, yeah, we haven't talked about Disgustingly Resilient yet.
No.
But that is not the same as it was in 8th edition. But Mortarion at least still gets it.
Yes.
Because
and there's ways to give this to other characters too, because this is just, you know, you can give this... There's a thing you can spend CP on at the beginning of the battle to give additional Warlord traits to other characters.
And you absolutely probably
so you probably
will
could
be looking at that. I want to talk about Living Plague, though.
Yes, please. Living Plague and Arch Contaminator, I think, are both worth talking about.
They absolutely are, but I think we should just talk about all 6, really.
Really.
Living Plague is amazing.
Yes.
It's within 3 inches, cannot be affected by aura abilities.
Yes.
Excluding those by psychics. That is astounding.
That is huge.
You're a melee army, you rely on rerolls, you rely on like aura buffs, and suddenly just no. Also, you spend that stratagem, Up this aura by 6 inches.
Oh my god, I was actually about to ask. I was like, I hadn't even thought of that. Does this synergize with that?
It's an aura.
Yeah.
So yes.
Oh my god.
You put the helm on that.
That is intense.
That's a 12-inch anti-aura. That's a thing.
That is a thing.
Hulking Physique is the next one. Mortarion already has this built into himself.
Which is, yeah.
Which is
but
plus
it
one
is
wound.
good. It is good, because this is the one that gives you...
You are not wounded on rolls of 1, 2, or 3,
correct,
regardless of strength, which is great.
Yep.
Arch
Contaminator. Okay, so this has changed from what it was previously.
A little bit.
A little bit.
It's not as bad as it seems at first.
It's really not. So it basically functions the same way for when you're making melee attack rolls. It right? Like I'm not misunderstanding that. It basically works the same way for melee.
If you are not familiar with the way the Arch Contaminator used to work, it was a rule that said friendly units within this aura range can re-roll wound rolls from plague weapons.
Yeah.
One of the big nerfs, admittedly, to this is that it now only affects core units. It does not affect your demon engines.
Correct. Which that is, I think, one of the biggest
That's the first half
negatives.
of the nerf. It still works the same on melee
Yep.
plague weapons.
Mm-hmm.
And then ranged weapons got a bit nerfed in that you now have to be within 12 inches of the target
Correct.
for it to work.
Which-
Wah.
Yeah, I'm like, the thing is though, is
You're getting in their face pretty quick now.
yeah, I feel like we're getting in there. The boards are smaller. I don't actually think the
You have it in
change to
melee.
the
You have it in melee.
and we are, as we have discussed, like you and I off camera, Death Guard is feeling much more melee.
Yeah, you are
So-
a melee army with tank support at range.
Right, exactly. So it works. I think it makes sense. I'm okay with the change personally. There's Rotten Constitution, which adds 1 to your toughness characteristic of your Warlord, and each time an attack with an armor penetration characteristic of -1 or -2 is allocated to this Warlord,
0.
it just becomes a 0.
That's pretty good.
That is really good. I like that as well. And then Foul Effluence?
Effluence.
Effluence?
Foul effluence.
Effluence. Sorry, words are not my strong suit. This one is the one
Meh.
that I'm least... Oh yeah, this is the movement phase.
Mortal
at the
wound.
end of Mortal Wound.
Eh.
That one is probably like honestly the least interesting to me, but all of these I think are valuable.
They are, and the only thing I will say about this is there's a lot of relics and powers and upgrades and psychic things to basically give your characters I fart and you take mortal wounds auras.
Exactly.
And this is just adding to that.
Right, which is fine.
It would be interesting
eh.
to see what you could do at like 1,000 points, because it might be like every one of them might seem like but then when it's like, well, I'm doing 6 of these around.
Yeah.
That starts to get nasty.
It does. It
when
really
it starts deleting a unit per round in total.
That is true. That is true.
But
Moving on to the relics.
alright, we're not going to talk too much about these because while they are cool, nothing about them is huge.
I think separating plate changed, right? I actually think I did not look at this page fully yet.
we will get to it.
Okay.
So we have basically this is a replacement for the scythes.
That makes sense.
It is nice. The best thing about it is it's double strength. It does not have a -1 to hit.
Ooh,
So it's
okay.
it's the power fist scythe without a -1.
Okay, I like that. That's cool.
Yes. This is a once per battle mortal wound bomb.
Okay, that's cool.
We have the Demon's Toll, which is an upgrade for the Blightbringer, aka Bellboy.
Yes.
It makes it so enemies cannot fall back. Yeah.
That could
Situational as hell.
situational. That could help with the morale thing.
It
though,
is, but it's
maybe.
it's a narrative.
It is. I
relic.
think so. I think so as well.
Everyone's favorite. I always call it Fulgurus, but it's Fugarus.
Yeah, I always want to call it Fulgrim's Helm.
Fulgrim's
but
Helm.
it's not Fulgrim's
It's very
Helm.
pretty.
It's very beautiful.
No,
It's
no,
the
no.
prettiest thing Death Guard has.
Add 3 inches to the range of the bearer's aura abilities, including potentially, like. I mean, one
Living
you do it to
Plague.
that, but yeah, the Living Plague, like, it's so tempting to throw it on different things.
It really is. To maximum, yeah, it's always that maximum of 12, which makes sense.
Once again, for your sorcerers, you can know 1 additional power, and once per battle, when you cast, you can heal.
Nice.
Not
That is
terrible.
that's not bad. That's not bad.
Not terrible, but once again, not the best.
Toll Keeper, I think, is the good one for the Tallyman, right?
This is an amazing one.
Yes.
So the Tallyman, once again, we'll get to him later, but it's pick a core unit, they get +1 to hit.
Yep.
Tollkeeper, Aura. While a friendly Plague Company core unit is within 6 inches of the tallyman, each time a model in that unit makes a ranged attack, on a 6, they score 1 additional hit.
Yeah, I
That
remember.
is a great babysitting.
Mhm.
Like, if you are running a tallyman with a, like, Plague Marine gun line.
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
Which I suspect might end up happening. Like I'm the list building in for Death Guard right now has me incredibly excited just because there's a lot of options as we're seeing. And the nice thing is too, while we continue talking about like the relics and like the contagions of discipline and going over these rules, I just want to say something really quick about it. When I got into 8th edition 40k after it had originally come out and everything, and got into the Death Guard originally, one of the things that I liked about them is they had a ton of flexibility for like how you could build them, what you could do with them, and a lot of them actually worked, which at least in 8th, not many lists or armies really did that.
Not that much flexibility.
Yeah, they didn't have that much flexibility. 9th edition overall so far, from our look at the Necron Codex, from our look at this book, from our look at the Space Marines and everything, feels like they're making all of them have a lot more options and a lot more flexibility so that if you want to play a specific way, you can, and it still functions, is fun, and is competitive to a certain level. Like, obviously, there's still going to be your meta. Obviously, there's still going to be the stuff that you want to, like, maybe do to run it the most optimally. But I think that there's a lot of fun for just, you're wanting to play casually or you're wanting to play a little less competitively and you're just wanting to have a good time with your friends. Like, I love the direction they're going with it all.
Absolutely.
And I love my options. I have so many good options.
Continuing with the relics.
Yes.
We have the Stench Vats. Also, once again, there are a lot of relic choices here that actually work out. I'm actually feeling more positive about them now than I was yesterday.
Good.
So this one, enemy unit is within 6 inches. They do not count as charging and they never fight first. Or they don't count the fight first rules.
Nice. This can only go on the Foul Blight spawn, though.
True, but once again,
yeah.
babysitting.
Yeah,
Babysitting characters, man.
And like we've said, these lists are really gearing you to run multiple of those elite characters.
Yes. We're going to skip the plate. We're going to talk about the Plague Bringer. It is a buffed Plague Sword, aka Power Sword.
Yes.
In your world.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
Now, the nice thing is there is actually a way. I think it might be a stratagem. I would have to double check.
Uh-huh.
I believe it 100% is. Let me just find it very fast.
Sure, of course.
There is... We were talking about yesterday. There is a way to actually give champions in your army a couple of relics.
Oh, yeah. Was it... No, I don't remember which one it was.
Apologies, folks. We're just looking for this very quickly.
I think it's on the other page.
Probably is. Plague Chosen.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I thought it was one of
No,
the, like...
that's not it. Champion of
the-
Disease. Here it is, Champion
yes,
of Disease. Use a stratagem before the battle when you are mustering your army. Select one Bubonic Astartes model from your army that has the word champion. That's sergeants for your
Right.
troops and
Yep.
such, right? And give them one of the following Relics of Decay. And basically, it allows you, if they can take, like, for example, your Plague Champions can take the Viscous... I'm sorry, that's the Pathogens.
Yep.
He could take the Plague Bringer.
Right.
And then have a really decent melee sword. So if you're running like a big unit of Plague Marines in a Rhino with melee weapons, and you just need to make sure that sergeant is just
He gets in there and
he
makes
gets in
it.
there, and this is going to make him strength 6 against toughness 3 Space Marines doing damage.
Because we are doing a negative. We are negative 1 toughness.
So this is a nice little like bonus.
Yeah, I hadn't even
For a
considered
CP
that.
to add it to your sergeants. You get 2 of them.
Nice.
For the cost of it, so you could actually buff a couple of guys.
Ooh.
And
Okay. Separating plate.
I was gonna say that's the good news. Let's talk about the bad news. Separating plate is way worse than it was.
Yeah.
It's a 2-up armor save, so it's still Artificer armor, which is nice. But each time an enemy fights, if the bearer lost any wounds as a result of those attacks, so roll a d6 on a 2+, they take 1 mortal wound. You no longer bounce like 50% of the attacks that hit you.
Yeah, I am a little sad that is not the case anymore. It was a little broken when it did work because sometimes you could just like you're like, oh, you hit me,
Oh, if a
and
horde
you're dead
hits
now.
you and they don't have a bunch of AP, yeah, they just bounce
Yeah,
off and
so
die.
it was a little
It was
brutal.
funny.
It was. I miss it. I think that is probably like one of the changes that I'm the most sad about, just because I'm like, aw, but
Can you
that
imagine
was
like an
fun.
old assault squad hitting it? It was just like, we have no AP. Ah!
Ah.
Oh god.
Yeah.
All right. So next up, we have the psychic powers. What's your favorite psychic power, Angela?
You know, honestly, I don't know because I
That's
did
a
not
pity.
look fully through them yet.
All right. Well, we have miasma of pestilence, and that is.
I was gonna say, did it change?
No. It
Okay.
is still a -1 to hit. There is the difference that the friendly Death Guard unit must be within. No, it's just. Sorry, I thought it said wholly within for a second. It's just -1 to hit them.
Okay, so that one hasn't changed. I still do like Miasma and Pestilence. I use that one a lot. Has Putrescent Vitality changed?
Putrescent Vitality within 18
Nope.
inches
Okay.
adds 1 to strength and toughness, so that's still the same. You
Yep.
can still buff.
Yes.
Gifts of Contagion. Warp charge of 5. Select one enemy unit within 18. Until your next psychic phase, subtract 1 from their strength characteristic. If you got a 8+ on the test, you also subtract from their attack.
Okay, that one's
Good
new.
debuff.
Yeah.
Good
Or
debuff.
that right? That's I don't remember that one.
I think it had a different name before.
Got it.
I think that was gift. I think that one was actually the one where you cast it on yourself and you rolled a D3 to figure out what you got.
Oh, okay. I was
Remember
like,
that one?
yeah, I do remember that one. Okay, so then there's Plague Wind.
Which has a warp charge of 6. Select an enemy unit. Roll a D6 for each model in that unit, and they get a mortal wound on 6.
Yep.
However, if the test was a 9+, 5s cause mortal wounds.
Okay.
So they are so they have buffed some of these.
Yeah, I do like the I like the sort of tiered of okay, you did cast it, you were successful, but if you really cast it, you get something better. I do like that. That's cool.
I also think before there was a limit to the number of dice you could roll for it.
Oh, can you not?
There's no limit now. It just says select one enemy unit within 18. Roll 1d6 for each model. There is no limit. So if you hit a 20-man unit with that, you're rolling 20 dice.
Ooh,
that's good.
That is good.
'Cause
Yeah.
I think it was limited to like 10 or something before.
Yes.
All right, Curse of the Leper. Select a closest enemy unit.
Okay.
Roll 7d6. For each die that exceeds the enemy's toughness characteristic, it suffers 1 mortal wound. And keep in mind, if you're closer, they're at -1 toughness.
Okay, that I was gonna say because at first I was like, oh, I don't know how I feel about that, but that -1 toughness that makes that scarier, a lot scarier.
Because on Space Marines, you're wounding on 4+.
Okay, cool. I like that one actually. I think right now that's the one I'm leaning towards that I like the most, just because thematically it feels fun.
It depends what you'd be fighting.
Right.
If you were fighting like toughness 3 guys, definitely.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Which are Necron Warriors toughness 3?
No,
They're 4.
we are Space Marines or
That's
tougher,
right, that's
depending
right,
on
that's
the
right.
size of them. And then finally, the Gift of Plagues. Death Guard unit within 18 inches until the start of your next psychic phase. Add 6 inches to their contagion aura.
Ooh.
Up to a max of 12.
Okay, here's the thing though. I actually don't think this is going to be super useful. There are so many other ways for you to extend that aura. I don't think spending a psychic power on it, unless you have nothing else you can do, is
for
worthwhile.
snipes. This is for tricks.
Yes, yeah.
'Cause
this is very situational.
Well, think
I
about
feel
this.
like.
Think about this. You deep strike in a sorcerer in Terminator armor.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you do that?
what?
Sorcerer and Terminator armor?
Yes.
Okay.
We're gonna find out soon. If
Okay.
not, I'm very wrong, and we'll find out. The point is that you deep strike something in that's 9 inches away from the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
They will not be within the aura, even on turn 2. Or so
I
then
see
you
what
drop
you're
the
saying.
bomb in, and then you cast it on them. They get the target within the aura, and then you kill the target.
Okay, so I'm seeing this is a better early game psychic power.
Yes.
Got it.
And
I like that then.
Yeah,
I changed my mind.
So I think
My
that
mind has
has
been
its,
changed.
it has its validity because in essence,
see what you're saying.
this psychic power could also be read as subtract 1 from enemy toughness within an area on the board. So it's actually quite powerful,
Yeah.
potentially. Because if you got a bomb into the center, and by a bomb I mean just any unit, could even be like a bloat drone or
Yeah.
something, because you can target...
Death Guard unit.
Yeah, like a bloat drone gets into the center on turn 2, so it has only an aura of like 6 inches. It's good, but not great.
Right.
You could suddenly on turn 2 make it 12 inches.
Yep.
And the enemy army is at -1 toughness.
I hadn't considered that. Okay, I like this a lot more, actually.
Yeah, you
now.
just have to think about where the target's going to be.
Yes, that is very fair. Really, honestly, then the contagions are pretty good.
I like all of them.
I do too.
I don't mind the fact that they're forcing you to take plague casters, really.
I really don't either. And this is one of the things I actually have always really liked Nurgle's psychic powers. I think it's been something that, oddly enough, I know that they're not really known for psychic.
Well, Mortarion hates it.
Right. Like, I know Father hates it, but like, it's good stuff, Dad. All right, we're gonna go ahead and look through the Crusade rules now. We're not gonna go into a whole lot of detail on these ones in particular because we've spent a lot of times on some other things, and honestly, we're probably gonna get more of like my thoughts and our thoughts in general on these when we actually start playing games for the channel and everything, because we do want to look at doing some Crusade stuff.
Some
but
crude saves, folks.
some crude saves
what
on my Crusade.
Is that what happens when you like make saving throws as a Death Guard? They're crude saves.
Yes, they're also
Perfect.
crusty.
All right, so we have the first agendas that have been added for the Death Guard. Most of them are focused on killing and numbers, as you would expect.
We do like to count.
Yes. A lot of things that are in these rules are focused on what is basically a custom plague that you build for your Crusade list through games.
Yes.
With the goal, basically, my understanding of it is the plague that you is... You know what, we'll talk about it in a minute.
We'll get to
but
it
basically, through the agendas, you earn currency points that you use to help customize and build out that custom plague.
As well as also to customize and buff up your units as well, because I think you're gaining virulence points is what they're called.
Yes.
And that is basically your currency for both, like he was saying, I think adjusting and affecting your plague, but also adding traits and such to your characters and other units and everything, because I think you have to, some of those have costs and everything.
Yes. I'm skipping ahead a little bit just to talk about the Spreader of Disease, which is that custom plague that your Warlord carries
because it's actually
around.
very cool.
It is, and I'm not going to read each point, but my point, with this is that when you build it initially, you end up with all of these factors randomized, which could work out in your favor, probably won't. So the thing about it is that you use those virulent points to sort of modify die rolls, re-roll on the tables, and just try to make the disease actually what you want it to be, which is something that, like you said, we'll have more notes on when we actually play it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm really like, right now, I'm very interested in playing with this rule set based off of like the chaos boons sound fun. I really like that this chart has been brought back and modified and stuff.
I want to talk about chaos boons.
Yes, no, well, let's talk about them then, because like I love that they're in there, and I like this is a thing that was brought back from
Chaos
Chaos books.
It's always been there. Yeah, the chaos boons, for lack of a better term, is just what they call the randomized table of chaos god fuckery.
Right, and I really like that it's back. I do think it'll be interesting to play in game, because I'm like, how often?
Let me touch on it real quick.
Of course, please do.
So we have this chart of chaos boons you see here, folks. You roll to determine what you're gonna get off of that chart. You'll notice there are 9 things you can get off of it.
Woo.
It's great. You roll on it once, you get yourself some bloated flesh. You got an extra wound. Ain't that great? Let's say you want to roll on this chart again. You get some diseased talons. Great. Now you're bloated. You got some talons. You're looking great. Nurgle loves you.
Absolutely.
You roll on it a 3rd time. Oh, you got bloated flesh again. You turn into a spawn.
Yep.
So to explain that mechanically, you can roll on this table to get boons for your character. But if you ever roll the same boon a 2nd time, you will become a chaos spawn. and that's the end of that.
Yeah, it's like, and I am sure that in a game where you're like, all right, this has been very thematic, I have a whole narrative built, all of these characters have names, and then you're like, and I've rolled for my champion, and you're like, he's so close to like becoming a demon prince or something, and you're giving him another boon, because in order
to reach demon princehood in the
you
Crusade
have to have
rules,
3 boons. You have to have 3 boons.
You have to roll on this chart at least. You have to roll on it 3 times.
Exactly. So, like, you're like, all right, we're almost there, and then he's a spawn, and you're like, damn it! And like, I'm waiting for that moment. I'm gonna hate it when it happens to me.
Oh, it's gonna be funny.
But it's gonna be hilarious, and I'm sure that I will have a great time laughing about it afterwards, and after I'm done being really pissed off that it happened. But I really like that it's back. It's very cool.
Yes. We also, of course, not talking about it briefly, we have battle traits upgrades for your units.
Right, which you can also spend your virulence points on.
Mm-hmm. We have the requisition points, which a lot of it exists for the same reason, or for the same uses that it does in the other codexes, getting warlord traits, getting
it's how you build your list.
It's how you get those deadly pathogens from earlier in
Correct.
the list. Obviously, more relics and upgrades. But, all in all, from what I've briefly glanced and heard about, it's looking great. We'll have more thoughts later.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some beautiful art of some inspired Crusade armies. They are going to die.
Oh, yeah, no, I was going to say, these guardsmen are so dead. So very dead.
They are, that's just...
I have never seen that face for Nurgle Prince, or Demon Prince before.
That, I think that comes in the plastic kit.
Does it?
Yes.
I don't remember it from our plastic... Wait. The normal Demon Prince kit.
Normal Demon Prince, yes.
I understand. Okay. I was like, I don't
Yeah,
remember.
that's how you build like a Nurgle Demon, I think, out of the default kit.
Got it. Okay. Dun 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 dun! It's time for the data sheets and some of our abilities and such. Because this is where we talk about how disgustingly resilient has changed. Even though technically I think we have talked about this before because they did a preview of, hey, by the way, this is changing.
Just to briefly run through it, plague weapons, they work the same as they did before.
Exactly.
Now, Remorseless, this is new.
Yes.
You ignore modifiers for combat attrition.
Which is nice.
Honestly, it kind of is.
Yeah.
Because that helps with those leadership things.
Any or all, too. Any or all, which I like that phrasing.
Yeah, so it's basically you just take it normally. You don't take all the negatives for being at half, or if there's like a aura hurting you or anything, which is great. Next up, we have Malicious Volleys, which is pretty much the same as it was before.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did this change at all? I hadn't seen anything about it.
So basically, instead of the normal shooting rapid fire, you can always double tap at max range.
Mm-hmm.
If the shooting model is within half the weapon's range, if the unit is infantry and remains stationary, and if the unit is a Terminator.
Yep.
However, you are Death Guard. And that means as long as you don't advance or fall back, you never count as moving.
Correct.
Meaning you always double tap.
Exactly.
Huzzah.
It's quite good.
It is. Disgustingly resilient. Alright, there are math theory videos about this.
Yep.
Let me just give my 2 cents on it.
Sure.
It is nerfed.
Mm-hmm.
It is less effective on average than before.
I would agree.
However, it is reliable and predictable when it needs to be, aka damage to 3 or more weapons.
Correct.
Because all it does now, instead of being a saving throw, because I haven't said it, is it reduces the damage of an attack by 1 to 1 at maximum.
Or minimum.
Minimum, yeah. The reason I am really okay with this is because if you asked me, hey, would you rather have Disgustingly Resilient, the 5+ save,
right,
or +1 wound on all your Plague Marines and such?
I would take the +1 wound.
And they gave you that plus this, and only raised the points of Plague Marines
by 3,
but from 18 to 21.
Yeah.
We'll get to that more in a bit. I'm okay with it, folks.
Yeah, I am too. Like, as a Death Guard player, and as somebody who I feel like had sometimes very exceptional luck when it came to my Disgustingly Resilient rolls, because holy cow, there were points where I had some Poxwalkers that I'm like, I don't understand how you've lived.
They lived
but
longer
thank
than
you.
Terminators, man.
It really did happen sometimes. Like, I did legitimately have some Poxwalkers live longer than the Terminator once, and it was very frustrating, but also very silly. But for me as a player, I'm okay with the change. We have so many other things that are allowing us to stick on the board that are just also good, equally as like, this is a morale thing too. Like, because you go in and you're like, any damage that you do to, say, a Plague Marine or a Terminator, which, let's face it, that's what I think Death Guard players are going to be running a lot of. Terminators especially. You're going to be like, oh, cool, I'm doing this 2 damage. I have this 2 damage weapon. It's really only going to do 1 damage to them if it hits them. They have 3 wounds. They have an armor save still. There are so many ways for things to still survive that this change, I think, is fine. And I'm okay with the fact that it's not actually, say, affecting my Poxwalkers anymore. because Poxwalkers are chaff. They've always been chaff to me. And so I'm just like, I don't really care.
And
like
Poxwalkers still have an ignore wounds on 6s.
Exactly,
So
and they can still be scary and like intimidating. And really, it's just like, I love this army because it just has so much going for it that is on theme.
Indeed. Yeah, and we'll talk about more of these individual units and their buffs when we get to them.
Absolutely.
We're finally going to talk about the Contagions of Nurgle. We have been referencing it this entire review, so forgive me if you don't know what it is.
Yes, it's not our fault. The book does that before they even get to it.
Right.
It is a little weird.
It's basically everything in your army, assuming it's all Death Guard Codex. Unfortunately, no Nurgle demons.
Correct.
You get this on all of your units. It is basically an aura that expands from 1 inch on round 1 to 3 inches on round 2 to 6 inches to finally 9 inches on turn 4 and later. If an enemy unit is within this aura range, they are -1 toughness.
Which is just freaking fantastic.
Nasty.
So good. And there are ways to expand this even further up to a maximum of 12.
And we've talked about
We've talked about those plenty. So like, it's great. I love it. We can teleport strike. That's always been a thing we can do. It hasn't really changed. Let's start talking about the data sheets.
Yes. All right, Death Guard Demon Princes. As was discussed previously, you can only have 1 per detachment now. While this is unfortunate, I think the viability of Plague Casters and everything you want Plague Casters to do, it's not that painful.
I really agree. Like, as a Death Guard player who even really liked to run the 3 Demon Prince list, like, I'm okay with this. I'm not upset by not having him around because I feel like there's
you're
other
still bringing 1.
Oh yeah, you're still bringing 1, so you're not like, it's not like he's gone completely.
Yeah.
And you're getting to play with a lot of other really cool things, so I'm very excited for it. I don't mind that he's not as good, or not that he's not as good, that you can't bring as many of him.
Yeah.
He's a demon prince. Realistically, should you have that many?
No, not at 1,000 bloody points, you shouldn't.
Exactly.
Then we have the big boy. By the way, not a whole lot changed with the Death Guard Demon Prince, so we're not going to talk about him too much. One thing, and you will see this in almost all of the HQs except for the Psychers, Lord of the Death Guard. That's the thing that means you can only have 1 per detachment, but it also allows you to pick core units. Let's see, is it 1 or is it any?
I think it's...
Yeah, so basically they have an aura that says core units can reroll hit rolls of 1.
Right.
Which, of course, Demon Princes already did that. It's not all units anymore, unfortunately, but as we know from Space Marines, they're nerfing that.
Yeah. Yeah, auras have really just been sort of...
They're bringing him in line.
They're bringing him in line. They were a little outrageous.
Our good old buddy.
I still really like him.
He is still great. He is a little faster than he used to be, like all Terminators.
Yeah, he's a little faster. Like, all of the buffs that Terminators got, he got as well. I actually like that his Host of the Destroyer Hive is no longer a weapon.
Yep.
It is just something that you can do in your command phase, because I almost never used it. I never felt like I ever actually got him close enough. Now, I might be able to do that more so now, because he can be protected a bit better. I feel like there's options for him. But I like that it's just something that you do in your command phase now. That's cool. He can still affect your Poxwalkers.
He gives them +1 strength, which they have +1 toughness built into them now, so cool.
Right, so this is good, and it's within 6 inches, but again, you can expand that using the various ways that we've talked about.
Can't use relics. He's a named character.
Correct. The relic is the one thing you
Psychic
can't.
power works, though. He could psychic himself.
Yes, exactly. And he still has his 2 psychic abilities that he can know, plus he can always cast.
Because he's nice, because he starts already at a +3 inches
I know,
to that.
I know, it's so good.
So you do that, you throw the 6-inch psychic power onto him, turn 1, he's got a 10-inch -1 toughness.
Or 9-inch, yeah. Oh, no, 10, yeah, you're right, you're right. Sorry.
1 +3 +6.
Yep, math.
That's really just charge defense.
Yeah.
But, that's really dissuading, especially...
But for him, that could be very powerful.
Well, here's the thing. You do that.
Mm-hmm.
The enemy comes in, they're at -1 toughness.
Yeah.
You might have something else in the army that turns off their auras. You got Bellboy in there so they don't attack you first.
Yep.
Charge 1 defense. Like, you might be able to charge Death Guard on turn 1, and it may not work.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know if you want to, is the thing.
Without eliminating some of those units, I agree.
Yes.
So, interestingly, if this isn't a sign that new miniatures are coming, I don't know what is. Games Workshop did not give us images.
For actually a number of things that was basically
from
like...
the Chaos book.
Yep.
But the nice thing is, Death Guard Chaos Lords and Terminator Chaos Lords
okay, yes, nice.
are now fully Death Guard. So they actually have all the rules, like they have disgustingly resilient now.
They can take their plague company, which I think they could before. Could they do that?
I don't remember, but they also give the re-roll. So basically,
because they're Lord of Contagion, or they're Lord of Death Guard.
Yeah, so you can like bring this guy along if you wanted to bring him instead of, say, a Lord of Contagion for deep striking.
Right.
I don't really know why you would.
Yeah, I don't know why either. Maybe I guess just points, or maybe if you're trying to fit it into power or something. Yeah, it seems kind of weird. The Lord of Virulence.
Why does it say he's an artillery guy?
I was about to ask that. I'm like, this guy still very confuses me. I picked one up because he's a cool mini. He's a cool mini, and I kind of want to paint him.
You can proxy him as a Lord of Contagion.
Anyway. Honestly, yes. I just don't understand like why they call him an artillery guy when he doesn't buff artillery.
He buffs core and core.
Yeah, it's just core.
That's it.
So he's very confusing to me, and the only reason I'm talking about it so much is because he's brand new. Why did you do that?
He's a Lord of Contagion with a flamer and a power fist, and for some reason Games Workshop just doesn't want to call him that.
Yeah, I know.
He should just be that.
I know. I'm like, why are you special?
Why are you this way?
Why are you this way? What did this
to you?
He
doesn't have Vector of Disease, does he? No, so I guess he's technically not a Lord of Contagion. Okay.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Well, I mean, guess not, but still,
yeah,
he's just weird.
And then we have Baby Typhus.
Yes, Baby Typhus.
Why? Okay. I like the Lord of Contagion model, but for I think it's 40 points more, you can take Typhus and get 2 psychic powers off a turn.
And as we've discussed, the psychic powers for Death Guard are actually incredibly valuable.
Yeah. And
good. So why would you not just take Typhus?
Because it's okay, let's say you're running 2 detachments. You can only take 1 Lord of the Death Guard per each. You take Typhus in one. You gonna take a Demon Prince or this guy? You're probably gonna take a Demon Prince.
I would take the Demon Prince.
So you take a Demon Prince. I still, I wouldn't even consider a Lord of Contagion until I had 3 detachments.
Yeah, honestly, me too. Tell me why you would take a Lord of Contagion rather than Typhus.
Other than to save 40 points.
Other than to save points. I just
can't imagine. It's for those psychic powers.
I guess,
so good.
Yeah, it really is.
Well, you can't give him custom relics or anything. So if you really were wanting to do something with the relics and those, then maybe.
Okay, I could see that.
Mm-hmm.
I could see that.
So that works out. We have the Death Guard Sorcerer
and the Plague Caster.
Which I do not think has changed a whole lot.
I don't think so. I was looking at him. I didn't see anything especially different.
So that's fine.
And I feel like we're going to see a lot more of those on the board.
And then one of
Beautiful Plague Marines who are now 2 wounds.
So these guys have gone from 18 to 21 points.
Yes.
They've gained a wound.
Super good. Super good.
They gained an attack, but they no longer get the hateful assault thing. So really, the attack bonus is the same as it was.
Yeah, I was like, it's kind of just baked in.
Yes. But really, it just comes down to with the extra attack, with the buff capabilities these guys can take, the toughness.
They're very deadly.
They really are.
Yeah, I like them. I mean, Plague Marines have always been good. They continue to be good. I need to paint a bunch more. They're in a case.
Yeah,
I'm working on it.
The Flail of Corruption has been nerfed a tiny bit. It's still very good.
Yeah,
it doesn't spill over like it used to.
No, not quite, but it's still good. So there's still benefits to it. We've got our Cultists and our Poxwalkers, which you can only bring now if you have.
It is 1
Marines
unit of each.
Yes.
Per unit of Astartes.
Correct.
So that means you can have 1 Cultist and 1 Poxwalker unit per Plague Marine or Terminator unit.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate, by the way, I hadn't noticed this, that they actually painted him Death Guard colors.
Yeah. I don't know, Cultists they exist.
Yeah, I'm never going to run them. But I will be running my Poxwalkers still. I still think I'm going to be using them. I still think they're cool and valuable to my game.
They hit on 4s now, which is great.
Right, and there are still ways to make them better. Typhus with them is very good. There's some, I think, stratagems for them specifically as well. I like that Necromancer one that you were talking about of being able to add things back into them. So I really still like Poxwalkers. I was very worried at the beginning that they were going to be nerfed to the point of where I spent so much time painting a bunch of them that I would totally not use them. And I'm really glad that's not the case.
Yes. I had not seen this, although it makes total sense. They can't gain experience or anything during Crusade.
Oh, that makes sense. I hadn't seen that either, but that does make sense.
All right, now we're going to start talking about some new changes.
Yes.
The Noxious Blightbringer has been changed. I like it. So previously, if you did not know, the Noxious Blightbringer had a rule that said if you advanced near him, you rolled 2d6 and picked the higher.
Yep.
This was useful, especially for Poxwalker hordes, because it allowed them on most turns to get like 8 inches up the board.
Yeah,
so.
I used the Bellboy to run Poxwalkers all the time. Actually, in Plague Marines too.
Yeah. Now, and so here's the thing. I looked up the math. When rolling 2d6 and picking the higher, your average is about 4.47.
Okay.
And I might be wrong on that. I just remember looking it up on the internet really fast.
Okay.
Now, instead of doing that, he gives you +1 to move. Now, here's the thing. Before, he was only giving you a bonus when you advanced. Now he's giving you a bonus when you move normally.
Yes.
And let's say you want to advance anyway. Your average rolling 1d6 is 3.5, but it's getting a +1 from him. So it goes to 4.5, which is still slightly better than it was before.
Yeah, I agree.
So I still think on a movement front, it's great.
And much like in the same way, 'cause
Yeah.
we didn't really say this about discussing Resilient, but one of the things I like about the change is that you're not rolling as much.
Yeah.
This just slows, because rolling
Speeds up the game.
Rolling can sometimes slow down the game. This speeds it back up, and especially considering like, both of our lists actually as very sticky, like staying power.
Undead list,
like
basically.
undead, because we're both running undead lists. Like, the games are already going to be long. I don't want them to be extra long because I'm having to make a bunch of rules. And while this isn't a super frequent rule, it's nice. It still speeds up the game. And I agree. I like that the math really doesn't feel that different.
Next up, we have the Foul Blightspawn, who is still wielding a Death's Head grenade and a hell of a Plague Sprayer with a strength of 7.
Indeed.
Which is
now
nasty.
his combo with the Plague Marines being able to do the bomb.
Different unit.
Different unit. Okay. Oh, that's right. Sorry, I always get him confused with the bomb guy.
Yep, so this guy has, you pick one enemy within 3 inches. Once again, you can buff that aura in many ways. That unit attacks last. Once
Nice.
again, defense against first turn charges is all over this list.
Got it. Okay, this is the guy that I have, but I haven't painted him
Correct. He
yet.
has the tank with the
Yes,
skewer.
yes.
So
I like that. That is good.
This is the guy who lost his trick.
Got it. This is the new one that was in the combat patrol.
Yes, so this is the guy who, if you weren't familiar with him previously, allowed you to throw mortal wounds with blight grenades. That is no longer happening. The stratagem isn't there, and he works a little differently. So basically, Astartes near him, their grenades become damage 2.
Nice.
Which is nice.
Yep.
He explodes when he dies.
Of course.
And once per turn, he can select a core unit that's near him. And until the start of his turn, whenever they make an attack with plague weapons, which with some units could be all of their weapons,
Yep.
an unmodified wound roll of 6 gives a mortal wound.
That is nice. I hadn't read that.
So you get him in there with like some Terminators with a flail or a whole bunch of attacks. You're adding mortal wounds. Going back to what I said
I
earlier,
like that.
this, every little mortal wound thing is like, well, by the end of the round, you've done 10 mortal wounds.
Yeah, I'm like, I do like the synergy that the faction is having on just plinking away wounds slowly over time, which is really on theme for Nurgle.
It is.
It's so good.
And you have to keep track of those wounds, and the Tallyman is here to do that for you.
It's true, and I just painted him up, and my goodness, is he good.
He is. So pick a core unit within 6 inches. For the next round, they have +1 to attack.
Yep. He also has a way to gain command points.
Yes, every round, if he's on the table, roll 2d6. If you get a 7, the odds of that are 1 in 6. You get a command point.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, I love him.
So,
Tallyman is definitely, I think, going to be a potentially permanent, like, just guy in my list.
I think he's 60 points, and like for the +1 to hit, once again, he doesn't have to go with the Terminators because the Terminators have that command.
Exactly.
But Jesus.
Exactly.
But
like
this guy in a rhino, we're gonna talk about rhinos.
Yeah.
Because there's some things with rhinos.
Indeed.
Plague
and then we've got the
Surgeons.
Plague Surgeon.
A little different now because obviously we no longer have Disgustingly Resilient, but he does provide a 6+ Feel No Pain.
Yep.
To units within 3. This guy is a very obvious helm
Yes. I think the Plague Surgeon is the guy that, like, for me at least.
Him or the Tallyman.
Yeah, both of them. Both of these guys are like, you need a hat.
Or if you were very afraid of getting charged turn 1, you could put it on the Biologist, but I think that's a little too situational.
I agree. I think it's more useful on the Tallyman or the Plague Surgeon because their ability overall is more, like, universally beneficial.
He can also heal an Astartes infantry, aka Terminators, for D3 wounds.
That also is good for your Plague Marine, though, because, I mean, they have 2 wounds now, so that would bring them, like, back up to full.
But oh my god, just the amount of damage.
Oh, no, Terminators are...
Speaking of... Alright, folks, we have to talk about some math theory with these guys.
I want all of them.
Stop knocking... It's the 7th time she's knocked something off the table.
Well, it's the last time, because that's the lucky number.
Ha. Holy number.
The holy number.
Sacred number.
Sacred.
Alright, so Blightlord Terminators. Toughness 5... 3 wounds, 2+ save, 4+ invulnerable.
They're just so darn good.
Disgusting, like the disgustingly resilient basically means if you are not shooting them with 1 damage weapons, they are effectively 4 wounds.
Yep.
Because if you hit them, like, you're gonna have to hit them with, that's like the best case scenario.
Yes.
If you're hitting them with 2 damage weapons, they count basically as 6 wound models.
Right, because you still would need...
You have to do 3 wounds to them. Sorry, to back up, because I'm, like, still baffled by how powerful
it blows my mind, and we're a little all over the place. So basically, because they have 3
Every 2 damage shot that hits them will be treated as a 1 damage shot, which means they effectively behave like they have 6 wounds.
Yes.
If they're hit by a 3 damage weapon, they still have to be hit by it twice, so they still effectively behave like a 6 wound model.
Yes.
I mean, they behave at like a 4 wound model, because a 4 wound model would still take 2 hits.
The point is they behave like they have more wounds than they do because of just how survivable they are, because of the synergy with Death Guard, and it's crazy, and I love it because Terminators are one of the things, like, so when I first got into 40k and we bought that box, that first one, it had Terminators in it, and that was the thing that was like, okay, I'll be into the Space Marines. I like the Terminators, because I thought the Marines themselves were cool, but the Terminators, like, I like them chonky boys. They are so good, and they looked like knights, and I was like, that was so cool. And when this came out, they gave you a bunch of Blightlord Terminators in the starter set. I thought they gave you some. Maybe I ended up with a bunch because of the flood. I have a lot of Terminators. I've always really liked them, and I really am now going to be painting them. You can definitely look for it. I think I'm going to be doing one of these for the channel
soon, I imagine.
Yeah, I imagine so.
So it's like, I was doing the points thing.
Sorry, yes.
They're 40 points each. So a squad of 5 is 200 points.
Yes.
You then throw, like, this is like, I'm thinking Crusade right now, 500 point Crusade list.
Yeah.
200 points for them. 160, I think, for your HQ. I think you could even take Typhus if you wanted.
Yeah, I think so.
Then 100 points for 20 Poxwalkers to fill your troop choice, because this is just for a patrol detachment.
Right. And that way also...
You're at 460-ish, I think. So then you have 40 points to add, like, a flail and maybe a blight launcher if you really wanted. Like, and I'm just seeing that at 500 points and going, how do I kill that?
Yeah, it's brutal. It's absolutely brutal, and that's one of the things I'm like, I have a feeling that both the Blightlord Terminators and the Death Shroud Terminators
might get a raise in points.
Are going to at least get a raise in points, if not some sort of, like, I hope they don't get nerfed, because I think they are so perfectly thematic.
Like these
but
guys,
I suspect that they're going to go up in points because they're just so good.
Just the Death Shroud are nasty in melee. They're getting 8 attacks at strength 5. It is terrifying.
I want to run all of them.
Yeah. I mean, the Blightlords are actually where my heart is. Like, these guys
not these guys.
These guys lost their full bodyguard ability with Mortarion that they had before.
Right.
But if there is a Plague Company character that has 9 or less wounds, you cannot target that character with range attacks if they're nearby at all.
Yeah.
Because he just stands in front of them.
Yep.
Yep.
Which I think is really cool, and it still feels...
Which is nice. It is a good bodyguard unit that just can't defend Mortarion anymore.
Correct.
Which is fine, and we'll get to why. Hellbrutes are looking good. Looks like that the Dreadnoughts for Chaos are getting the same buffs as the Imperial variants.
Yeah, exactly.
They are, each time it's allocated, they get -1 damage from that attack. Do they have Disgustingly Resilient as well? No, they don't.
No, they do not.
Just Contagions. Okay. So he has -1, but from a different reason. Possessed are one of the hot topics.
Yeah, because these guys are actually pretty valuable now, right?
Well, what it comes down to is the fact that they turn them into 4 wounds, strength, or 4 attacks, strength 5.
Oh, I had not noticed that.
Yeah.
Holy cow, that's pretty good.
At AP -2. So these guys,
they do have their demon save,
they have an invul save,
they get disgustingly resilient.
yes,
Ooh.
they're 2 wounds. Yeah, these guys are nasty.
Interesting.
These are your shock melee troops now.
Okay.
Because see, they have a movement of 7.
Dang.
So these guys rush
So they are
the board.
fast. Yeah, that is fast for Nurgle. Okay, that's pretty cool. And the Chaos Spawn is a similar thing. It's just that they are...
The Chaos Spawn is like the disgusting little creatures that...
Oh, no, I know what it is. I'm sorry, I was looking at the movement. They're also a 7-inch. They have a slightly worse weapon skill. They have no ballistic skill, because that makes sense. They don't have guns. I was just comparing, sorry.
Yeah, the Possessed don't have guns either. They have tentacles for arms.
Yeah, that makes sense. They have the, like...
Yeah, just the amount of attacks you can get per points is
pretty
huge.
good, yeah.
And Korn is looking forward to what they can do with these.
Oh, yeah, I hadn't even thought of that for Korn, because I was like, I don't know if I'd use him super a lot here, but, like, I do like the sound of it.
Yes. Now these guys are getting fun now.
Yes. I'm a little sad that the Myphetic Blighthauler is not looking quite as... Whoa, I'm throwing things. Quite as tasty to me anymore as the fetid bloat drone, because I do really just think this thing is so cute. But holy cow, I want to run 2 of these mowers in my list, because I think they're really good now.
See,
I mean, I think they were good before, but...
I'm not as down on the Blighthauler as some people are.
I'm not as down on him either. I'm just more interested in this one because I think... I don't know. I'm leaning towards this more now.
For me, the Blighthauler stayed where it was. It's just the bloat drone took off.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of for me too. I always held the Blighthauler really high in Prestige, and I still do. I'm just like much more. I've turned my attention so much more to the bloat drone.
Because like the Blighthauler, they like all demon engines. It now has a 3+ to hit, which is great. Because you are Death Guard, your tanks fire their heavy weapons into melee without penalty, which means you can fire both crack missiles and your multi-meltas into melee.
Yep.
So I still really like this guy for charging tanks.
I do too, because there's also a stratagem that allows you to fire blast weapons.
True.
Which I know the Bile Spur isn't that great, but it would allow you to do your missile launcher like in.
True, but once again, talking about it from a tank hunter perspective.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Firing crack missiles.
Yeah.
Normally for that, so yeah, if you got stuck in with a bunch of like infantry peasants.
Right.
I can definitely see that use. But like, imagine just, there's a Land Raider.
Yeah, that's true.
Go hug it. This is a dog. You unleash it to go fetch the
You
Land
really
Raider.
do.
So it latches on, and just every shooting phase, you just start shooting multi-meltas and crack missiles into whatever is near it, while it's doing its downing toughness aura.
Would this be good to take on that tank that's coming in, that's releasing soon, that they just talked about on Warhammer Community? It's coming out with the Blade Guard veterans.
Oh, the hover tank?
The hover tank, yeah.
It'd be as good as pretty much any tank.
Okay.
Like,
I mean, against it. Like, would these guys be good against that in the same way they would the Land Raider?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So basically the idea is he runs up, starts debuffing, and just is humping it and just shooting it at the same time.
Yep.
And if you blow it up, it probably explodes and hurts you.
Oh, it does. It has the putrid explosion.
That's what I mean. So.
And you can trigger that, I think, automatically.
With a stratagem,
yep.
Yes. But yeah, bloat drones are looking spicy. The flesh mower makes it a 12 attack unit.
Yes, which is why I'm very
7.
interested.
It's a strength 7, 12 attacks.
Mm-hmm.
That, once again, the enemy is at -1 toughness.
Yep.
So even if you're humping a tank with it, the tank is going to be, like, debuffed, and you're probably going to wound on 3s.
I know, it's so good.
With a decent AP and 2 damage.
And they're survivable. Ooh. Like, that's the nice thing, too, is they are still pretty survivable.
For their points?
For their points.
Yes.
Yeah, like, I know they are more expensive, because I think that my Myphetic Blighthauler did go up a bit in points.
They
but, like,
all did, but at the same time, firepower to point didn't change because multi-melt is doubled in shots.
Precisely. So I'm just like, I really still think they're quite good. The Plague Burst Crawler, I haven't actually looked at him very much because I have not been running this as much in my list anyways, even past 9. Have you seen anything like specific about him?
So looking at everything that we've looked at before, so he has a ballistic skill of 3 now, which is great.
Right, because he also got that upgrade because he's
Plague
a
Spitters are now 12-inch range. They went up in points, which was one of the things which makes sense. I will say, I think they have really...
Were the entropy cannons always plague weapons?
That I don't remember. They did also buff the entropy cannon damage. Because now they're D3 plus 3 instead of D6.
Yeah, that's one thing I don't remember. I'm like, I don't remember if that was a plague weapon previously.
I could not tell you off the top
No,
of my
neither
head.
could I. I'll look it up later.
But the nice thing that I noticed earlier is there's enough psychic powers and stratagems through like the plague companies that I think if you wanted to run like a demon engine detachment, this would be your centerpiece. But then you'd have to build around it. But so I definitely can see building detachments around these. I think it's going to end up being like you're going to have a core detachment of Terminators. Yeah. And then you're going to have the Demon Engine detachment. And that's going to be sort of like the standard idea.
Yeah, I agree. There's so much to play with in this codex still, and I'm very hyped for it.
The Chaos Land Raiders.
The R1 Machine Spirit. It's a Land Raider.
We'll see you.
It's a Predator.
Goodbye, Land Raider. Goodbye, Chaos Engines. Notice, while they are Nurgle, they are Death Guard, they do spread the -1 or toughness aura.
Yes.
No feel, no pain. No disgustingly resilient on these.
Yeah, which is a little bit of a shame.
Defiler also doesn't have it, and unfortunately you can't give it anymore with a stratagem.
Oh, really? Is that stratagem gone?
They got rid of that one.
Okay, I hadn't realized.
Yeah, you can't turn these guys. But
the Rhino.
So, Rhino, it doesn't have disgustingly resilient, which isn't great, but it can transport all those characters we've been talking about and the Plague Marines to the center of the field.
Yes, it can.
It also
spreads the contagion.
Which
I find
for like 60 points.
Yeah. And it's still a 10 wound model. So it's still going to take time for the enemy to get rid of it or have to really focus it down. So it bringing that contagion more forward, I still think is very valuable.
Yeah, and like once again going back to that psychic power that adds inches onto the contagion aura. Rhino drives forward. That's a prime target. You do that, suddenly half the board is on.
Absolutely. No, and I'm actually really looking forward to this because I think
we have a Chaos Rhino.
Yeah, I think I have the Chaos Rhino. I haven't built it yet, but now that I actually feel like I might want to run these, to be able to actually use them as transports, because I never really did previously.
Shocking.
I actually want to like customize it. Like that's gonna be fun.
Mortarion.
My boy.
Himself. All right, so Mortarion is an 18 wound beast. He did not get any kind of wound limitation thing like the Satan or Thraka did.
Which makes sense, I think, to a certain extent, because he just has a freakish amount of wounds, and there's so many other ways to prevent him from taking wounds. So he is just so survivable.
So yeah, so he is, once again, he's a beat stick in melee. He's got a decent little gun with the lantern. He casts 2 psychic powers. He denies 3 because he hates psychic. You know, he is great.
Yes. I have to paint mine.
You really do.
So I will admit, I actually pulled out the Mortarion box when we were first seeing the previews of him that GW was like showing before this book was out. And I looked at him and I was like, this doesn't feel so scary anymore. Like this actually feels mildly approachable. Because I looked at him just after I painted the Tallyman. And I had really strong confidence going in with that because I was like, I had a really good plan and it went successful and I was able to accomplish it. And I feel like if I just block him out and plan ahead of time, he'll actually be very easy, time consuming, but not overly like, oh dear God anymore. And I might actually get him painted because I want to run this monster in my lists so badly. He is an actual, Primarch. Like he actually feels like a demon Primarch specifically. Like he feels like you took a Primarch and you shoved him in the face of a demon
Shoved a
prince.
demon up his butt.
You shoved a demon up his
That was
ass.
Fulgrim.
And I mean, it was Fulgrim, let's be fair. In this case, you shoved a demon up your nostrils, your nostril flaps specifically, and then you got Mortarion, and he's just a monster. And okay,
so
sorry,
so,
I'm just fangirl.
All right, so Primarch of the Death Guard. He selects a core or character within 6 inches of him.
Yep.
Reroll all hits.
Yep.
It's great. Lord of the Death Guard aura, same thing as all the other HQs. Demon Primarch. He must be your Warlord. Shocking.
I mean, who would? Yeah.
He has a 4-up invul. He is the host of plagues, which means that at the beginning of the first battle round, he picks a Warlord trait from a list and adds it to his other 3.
Yep. So
That's why I was saying he has 4.
Yeah, he has 4. Like, he effectively has 4
and he
Warlord
gets to
traits.
choose the 4th one.
And which is just insane. And that's not to say that the ones that he already gets, because we talked about them already.
Oh, that's what I didn't realize.
What?
He picks from the Warlord traits of all the detachments.
Oh, that makes sense.
That's even better.
That is even better.
I thought, yeah.
Yeah, that's even better.
Cool.
I like that. Oh, I hadn't realized
God,
that either.
he's good.
He is so good. This makes me really hopeful for what they're doing for Magnus. Like, like, Magnus better be a psychic blockade of
He's not gonna be a blockade. He's gonna be a psychic, like, turret.
Well, that he should be both. Like, I feel like he should both, like, he just be a monster, a psychic monster.
All right.
That I can then crush with Mortarion because I stop it.
Very good. Next up, we have the Nurgle Smokestack. It's a building. It costs
I want to
points.
play with it. I want to play with it because I want to experiment with it because
I think it's good at low point values.
I think so too. I think it's going to be a fun thing to play at low point value. I don't know how it's going to be on like a competitive level.
So for those who don't know what it is a Nurgle piece of terrain that basically exudes a large aura for the -1 toughness bubble.
Yep.
And as well as granting, I believe, a -1 to hit defense buff to your units if they are close enough to
Yes,
it.
and I think there's also a light cover thing that it affects as well because it's a terrain piece.
Yeah, it gives you light cover, but if you're in light cover, I think you take a -1 to hit instead, which is great. The problem is the thing can't be deployed within 3 inches of a piece of terrain. It can't be deployed within 12 inches of the enemy's deployment zone.
And with the size of the boards currently, I'm just not sure that it's going to be
it's
like
so big. I'm worried its footprint won't.
Yeah, exactly.
manage to
I'm
be
just
where you want it to be.
exactly. I'm just worried that you're not going to have a like feasible place to actually put it and have it be effective in the way that it's designed to be effective.
Yeah.
So I just don't know if it's not.
We're just gonna use it as terrain.
I bought it specifically because I just wanted it to have as terrain.
Yeah.
Like honestly, I said it in my news video earlier this week. I am a little tired of playing on purely Imperial terrain like boards. I want some other options, and the fact that this is a Nurgle themed thing just
Works out well.
yeah, it works out super great for me.
And then finally, we have the weapon profiles. Excuse me.
Yep. So you can have all that. Our
Melee weapons.
Of course, there are quite a lot.
The point values. Go ahead and take your screenshots now. And then probably my favorite pages, the glossary with the page numbers that these things are on.
Which is great.
And a full reference that goes over contagions, the pathogens, detachment abilities, diseased minions. Thank you, Games Workshop, for joining us in modern RPG and game book design.
Yes, thank you. Like, this is nice. I like it. I will probably be referencing these pages all the time.
And then the old cover.
I actually really like it still.
I think I do too. You cannot see what's on that final page.
And that has been the Death Guard book.
And that has been the Death Guard Codex. Let me know what you guys think below. I personally am feeling very buffed. I definitely need to be painting up some of those big, thick, chunky Terminator boys because they are super good now and I need them in my lists. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, but make sure that if you liked this video that you hit that like button, subscribe for more if you enjoyed it. Make sure to follow me on Instagram and Twitter for more hobby updates. Maybe you'll see all of the various Terminators that I'm painting there because I will definitely be posting about them. And that you can follow me there at hobby_night. So make sure you do that. And I have been Angela. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.